Talented salespeople can come and go. God made more of them.
I would rather let somebody go that's a good salesperson and terrible at.
And now the room is lighter, it's airier, and we made more money. I've never had more consistently good hires. A lot of people would get into the process and go, oh, they're really serious about this. I don't know if this is in alignment with me. And then some people would go, they're really serious about this.
I hire somebody. My intent would be that I'm so excited about them in that role. I immediately want to invest in them because, like, if you accept every good opportunity, then you don't have the bandwidth to accept the great ones. So if somebody says, I want to start a business, what's the upside? Hey, I want to be a teacher. Okay, well, what's the upside? Because they love kids or they think they love kids and then discover it's not financially where they wanted to be. Most roofers that are amazing roofing are not good at sales.
Jake's out doing all these cool videos. By the way, he's not hiring an editor for any of that shit. He loves it. Don't ask me to do it. I'm going to look at you and go, who we hiring? Yeah, right? Welcome to Let's Go. Today we're going to be talking about opportunities, the ones you should take, and
what you should say no to.
Yeah, there's definitely some opportunity that you should say no to.
Absolutely. And sometimes good opportunities, because you think, like, if you accept every good opportunity, then you don't have the bandwidth to accept the great ones. So it's really, sometimes it's like, hey, this is a good opportunity. Is it a great one? Yeah. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that today, our experiences with that, as well as I'm actually going to share a model that people can use on when they have an opportunity to evaluate it and see, like, is this an opportunity for me?
Yeah. I have a very relevant story to taking good opportunities instead of great opportunities. Are you ready for it?
Ready.
So last night, Clayton and I were doing Pokemon cards, and we ordered Johnny's Pizza. And this morning, I typically have a very clean breakfast. It's like a protein drink or, just a few eggs and a lean meat. Not a lot. I save my unhealthy times for like dinner when I'm going out with people and I want to have drinks and I know.
And then you can go to sleep. It's okay to be a little.
Yeah, right. So I eat pretty lean and clean during the day, and then dinner. And it's the exact opposite of what anybody healthy would tell you. Like, no. If you're gonna eat like that, like, eat that in the morning. So
you
can
burn it off.
Yeah, you burn it off during the day. You don't have all the fats and unhealthy food sitting in your stomach. I'm doing the opposite. I'm following my own diet. It's not recommended. But I passed up, today or later today, I'm supposed to be meeting with my business partners, and I'm going to go pick up some meat at Beef and Barrel, who is also going to be sponsoring the next podcast. Ooh. It's going to be awesome. And was going to come back and cook steaks for us. And now, since I ate half a pizza for breakfast, or really like brunch, I ate it for brunch. Yeah. I took a good opportunity, and it's going to cause me to probably not enjoy the great opportunity as much, because normally I would eat super clean and then have a really great meal. Well, now I'm going to be so bogged down and be like, well, I can't eat like that twice in a day. I'll feel like ass. There is a real life example of taking a good opportunity, which Johnny's Pizza for breakfast it's a good opportunity.
Yeah.
But a reverse sear smoked filet with a twice baked potato and a fancy bottle of whiskey is a great opportunity.
Well, and interesting enough, this is the cool part, and I love the example because it's one of those things, everything can be.
Yeah.
I think because sometimes we look at things and we go, this is the right way, right?
Yeah.
So when we look at opportunities, it all is under the umbrella of what's your intent, right? Because if you have is your intent to lose weight, then you need to eat like this. If your intent is to gain more weight, you need to eat like this. If you are looking to, so this was the craziest thing. So like when runners run ultra marathons, which is basically anything over a 26 miles, they can consider that an ultra marathon. And the joke is you eat your way through. So when you're running 50, 100 miles in 24, 30 hours.
You gotta eat.
Yeah, so like they literally will calculate and say, okay, based on, how fast you are, your weight, your this, your that, everything, for you to sustain all the way through, you have to have 150 to 250 calories per hour. I remember the first time I ran one, and they actually had Coke on the table. And I've never been like the leanest athlete or whatever. And I'm looking at these people that they would run 100 miles in like, not all of them, but you'd have the very elite that run it in 12 hours. And I'm going, They ain't drinking Coke. They ain't eating pizza. During those, you're expounding so much energy.
I don't know how your stomach could handle that. There's no way I could drink a Coca-Cola before going to work out. And believe me when I say my workouts are nowhere as intense as running a marathon.
Well, and not necessarily in a marathon, right? But we're talking the ultras because your body has depleted all of your energy. And then I know for me, like after a while, it got to where like I couldn't force myself to eat food.
I thought that was what they invented like frog fuel for.
Now they do
the little gel packs and stuff.
You have the gel packs. You have in your water. You have stuff that you and what I'm doing.
It's her Camelback. She's talking about the Camelback. She's not like Olivia. You were giving yourself a mammogram on a podcast. This is a kid's show.
That's right.
For God's sake.
But anyway, so it all matters. You have to, before making a decision, you have to put it in what is your intent. Because again, like a ballerina, they're going to eat differently than a power lifter. They're going to look differently. So you could look at them and judge, and yet what are you putting it up against? Because if a power lifter ate like a ballerina, they're not going to be a power lifter, right? So you have to look at those things and go, what's my intent under this umbrella? Okay, based on that, how should I eat? How should I think? How should I? So we want to look at the same thing when we look at opportunities, because a great opportunity for you may not be a great opportunity for me.
Yeah.
And vice versa. So we have to look to, so that's where I'm a big fan of systems and models. Somebody has created the wheel. What can we learn from them and then utilize that and it's okay to take, and the model that I'll show you today, I didn't come up with it. And it's a great model, and you might make changes to it, right? And yet it gives you a place to start with. Am I thinking about everything? So often, and I'm sure you hear this too, people will talk about, I want to start a business. I want to do this and I want to do that.
I hear that about 80 times a week.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with it. This is the question that I always want you to, and this is the start of the model. So if somebody says, I want to start a business, I want to do X, Y, Z, what's the upside? Okay, that's the first question you want to ask yourself or allow somebody else to ask you. And what I mean by what's the upside is what's the potential annual income this business, our move can make. So even if somebody said, hey, I want to be a teacher. Okay, well, what's the upside? And what's the potential annual income? Because you have to, because how many people do we know that go into like the teaching profession because they love kids or they think they love kids or they think they love teaching and then discover that's not financially where they wanted to be, or there's some other questions we'll ask that will help.
I don't think anybody gets into education for money. It's a calling. Thank you, teachers. We appreciate you.
That's right.
You are humble servants of the Lord.
And so, what's the potential annual income this business, or hey, if I'm going to move, what can that make? And you have to pre-decide what is it that makes it worth your time. So, if this is, let's say it's your first business, you might say, okay, me being a realtor, me being an insurance agent, me being a home builder, it has to make $50,000, $100,000, $250,000, $500,000. Like, what number is worth it? If you already own a business and you're thinking about opening another one, doing another branch, getting into a different environment, you have to ask the same question. What is the upside? Where is it worth your time?
Ooh,
a lot of business.
There's a whole big question to ask besides what's the upside.
Well, I've got 9 more questions.
Okay, yeah. So because as a business owner, this is something we go through. This is something I have a business partner. I want to say their name so bad. I feel like I have the right to say their name.
Nah.
You know who it is.
Yeah.
And so they have seen what I've done, and I'm not saying they're modeling after me. Don't know. I haven't asked the question. But every 3 or 4 months, there's a side hustle or something going on, and you have to earn the right to open a new business. And by earn the right, we call it in my world, if you've read the MREA, Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, which by the way is not just for real estate agents, it is a business modeling book.
Oh yeah.
So if you own an HVAC company, if you own a sales company, if you own a company, if you own a business, it's a great book to read. And in there's levels 1 through 7. 7 means I am now a hands-off business owner who receives a paycheck from a business. That is I want to call it, it's the dream.
It's the dream. It's very rare.
It's super rare. You have to be in a market in which there's enough money to pay someone to replace you. That is a very high paid person.
And you're still on the board. There is no, if you want a business to really thrive, there is no, I'm completely checked out.
Yeah. And so I don't, like in Monroe, just due to our price points and what I do for a living, I don't know that 7th level really exists for me. I would say that I'm at 6th level, where I do own a business that I can leave for a month. That business will still produce money, but I have to come back at some point or something bad's going to happen. Yeah. And I have great people in place.
And you have to be engaged with your people and things to that effect.
Yeah, so even like I was in Hawaii for a week and a half, 2 weeks. I was out of town total for over 2 weeks. And in this summer, I was out of town for over 3 weeks with my kids. And I spent the first 2 or 3 hours on the phone, on my laptop, every single day before everyone else woke up. So it didn't matter. But the business still ran. It still produced unto me fruit. And everyone got paid and people got bonuses and life was good. 7th level would be, I'll see you guys next year. I'll hop on a Zoom call every now and then if you need me. And you can do that. And so you really need to make it to around that 6th level to where you are able to be somewhat hands-off and you have someone in place to help you run the business.
Interesting enough, you can, so let's not go too deep into that because if you haven't read the book, you're not going to get that. Yeah. Actually, you can do that with somewhere between levels 3 and 4. Interesting enough. So, hey, we have the whole nother conversation. We can share that. So the first thing you have to ask, okay, is what is the upside? Now, what I may do, let me run through all of them, and then let's pick them apart, each one.
Okay.
So what's the upside? So let's say that you mentioned somebody, and they're like, hey, I want to do a side hustle. Okay, there's nothing, like side hustles can be amazing. My question would be, okay, I'm going to do a side hustle. Can that side hustle make me, and you might have an idea, you might go, okay, I want it to make $1,000 a month. If it makes $1,000 a month, now there's lots of other questions, right? But so the first question is, what's the upside? How much money? Because there's going to be a number that doesn't make sense for you. Then you're going to ask yourself, what are the dangers or challenges? Like, what are we missing? Basically, in essence, what could go wrong here? Could I do the side hustle and then get sued for more than, right, or whatever? So number 2 is, what are the dangers or challenges? Number 3, do we have the right jockey? Meaning, let's say you already run a business. We'll take you, most business owners will say, we will not start a business, our next piece, without hiring the right person to drive it.
See.
Because they already have a job, right? You already have a job, so you've got to go into business with somebody that they're going to drive that. And so then you have to go, do I have the right jockey? Because if you don't have the right person to drive it, guess what? You're going to be over there and over here, and everything gets diluted. So number 3 was, do we have the right jockey? Number 4, how many people will this business, our next move, have? People create complexity and management. You have to decide if that's okay with you. Like, are you attempting to stay away from large human capital business, or are you okay with it?
Yeah.
And so that's gonna,
define human capital for everybody.
A number of people.
Hiring and firing and managing people.
Managing people. How many people are gonna, are you okay with 1 person, 2 people, 50 people? Like, what does that look like? And then you want to ask yourself, what am I bringing to the table? Or if you're a whole business, what are we bringing to the table? So when we think about that, I want you to think about it in time, influence, or capital. So we'll dive into that with you, because with your business, right, with your other, are you bringing time, influence, capital? And this is the interesting thing. The preference, now again, this isn't for your first opportunity or second, but let's say, it could even be like if you're a mom and you're thinking about this side hustle, or you could be a dad, but I'm just thinking like somebody that's got multiple kids, you're going to go influence, capital, time. Well, if you don't have time, do I have influence in that? Or do I have capital? Number 6 is going to be, how loud will this be? Basically, how much noise will this business or next move create? And what I mean by noise is how much mind space is this going to take? So let's say that you're already in a business where maybe you run a company and you already have 50 people in the company, and while you have people that report to people, that's a lot of things get moving parts and pieces. Well, if that's really loud, you might not want your other business to be that loud. You may not be able to take that. And
or you need to put a sound barrier between you and that business.
Right. So you've got to decide. Number 7, is there anything proprietary or special in this business, like that I can help me build a moat around it. Number 8, do I already have customers for this product or service for my existing company? So again, we'll be able to dive into that. So
I'm smiling for a reason.
Yeah. So again, like you have we're going to go in depth with Harrison, but like let's say you have a restaurant, and so you have existing customers, and then you add a catering piece, right? Like, so we're going to talk about that. But and then I'll have a really fun story about what not to do. And then number 9, will it require travel? Some businesses or jobs will, some don't. You have to, if it's going to require travel, you have to ask yourself, am I okay with that? If you're not okay with that, and can't figure out another way to do it, then that's probably not the opportunity for you. And then number 10, and this is super important, how passionate am I on a scale of 1 to 5, where 4 is not an option?
See.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like we have all of those. Now we're going to go back. We've talked a lot about, so let me ask you, if we started at 1, for you to be interested in another opportunity, another business, do you have, and by the way, guys, it could mean how much money in the first year, second year, third year, but for you, when you're looking at an opportunity, for it to be worth your time, how much, what number do you have to say, like, okay, I could see this making $100,000 a year, profit to me, or what is that number for you?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's really about an ROI, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, so what's your return on investment? What is your...
I have, so most of my businesses are doing 80 to 200% cash on cash for my investment in year 1 to year 2.
Okay.
And so if I put in 30 for most businesses within the first year to 2 years, I'm expecting to get 20, upwards of $50,000 in that. Snow cone stand, for instance, year 1, it was a break even on cash on cash. So I got 0% ROI, but I now own a business. We got our systems down. I'm now, because of that, I'm able to open a second stand for, let me see, less than a tenth of the price I paid for the main stand. And we're able to move all those SOPs and everything over. My ROI will begin this year, but I had to pay for the education first.
Yeah. And I'm glad you said that, because it's not necessarily 1 or 2. So,
yeah,
but I want to go back to this. So it's like I said, it may be year 1, maybe year 2. I think sometimes, and I love the expression, right? We overestimate what we can achieve in 1 year and underestimate what we can achieve in 5.
Yeah.
So, but go back to what you said. So, if you spent $30,000, you expect your intent would be that would then make you $70,000.
No. So I would, up to, yes.
Up to.
So let me give you a better example in the roofing company. And I'm just going to use, these aren't the real numbers. I'm just going to use some very easy round numbers. I invested theoretically $100,000 to get the roofing company started. And in year 1, it actually did give me a 200% return, which means cash on cash, I completely doubled my money. I got all my money back, and I got an extra $100,000. That is a great investment. The main thing is you don't want to continue putting CapEx, capital expenditure. You don't want to continue having capital calls, owner calls, and going, hey, we're upside down in the bank account. We got to do that. I do have one of those businesses right now. We've owned it for like 4 months. Month 1, we made $20,000. Month 2, we lost $20,000. We're in month 3.5 right now. Looks like we're going to lose about 10. And we've had a lot of CapEx. And so CapEx for us in this means we have some repairs. I'm likely going to be negative in this business for the first year, but I'm buying a learning experience. I knew this would go in skinny for the first 6 months. Looking forward to seeing what the month 7 through 12 look like for me. Because of the money we're investing into the business, we're making it look better. We're giving it systems. We're doing cool things with it. Yeah. So needless to say, I am looking for it to pay me back within the first year or 2, and then I would like to see that same amount back and growing. So if I put in 100 and I get my first 100 back in the first year or 2, I'm good with it.
Okay, so
that's absolutely good with it.
So this is the core. So
but that is not a metric for everyone.
Correct.
That is my metric.
And this is where you take this model and you make it for you.
Yeah.
So again, so he's those numbers. I want you to ask yourself. So it might be for you. It might be okay. We'll say side hustle, and you might go, if it can make me $1,000 a month, if it can make me, like, there is no wrong answer here, by the way. what it does allow you to do is when you're evaluating opportunities is to know okay, that doesn't make sense for you. So if you were, I remember, and we won't say the business, but there was a business I was at, well, we won't say the business, but I was talking to you about,
confused.
That's okay. I'd asked you about like a home repair business.
Oh yeah.
Handyman.
And I said I would not invest in that.
Because he had done the math and there's not enough.
Yeah. You can't charge enough. It just doesn't scale. People aren't willing to pay that. I was about to get super political there for a second. If some of this immigration stuff doesn't change, people are about to have to pay for it. Yeah. And y'all need to be careful what y'all ask for. Y'all don't want that smoke.
Yeah. This is so again, like this is the so again, you just have to identify what is your upside. So get clear. And again, it doesn't have to be clear like you have to like clear. It can be clear as mud, right? But you have to have an idea of. And understand that there are going to be some months where you're more profitable than others, and
it's
yet
about an average.
It's about the average, and it's about where you're going. But what it allows you to do as a business person is to go, if it doesn't do at least this, then let me keep looking for a different opportunity.
Yeah.
Just because it's something you like, it might be, you know what, I'm going to keep letting that be my fun thing. I'm not going to try to turn it into a business. Or you're going to keep exploring because you might hit around something that somebody else hasn't thought about or somebody hasn't done well, and then you can make a lot of money with it. So, okay, so number 2, what are the dangers or challenges? Again, in essence, what could go wrong? So you want a list of all the things that could go wrong.
Yeah.
That way you can say, like, if that all happens, am I still okay going into that?
Yeah. So what do you, I know in my head what the answer is to this question, but what do you think is the number one thing that could go wrong when you're opening up these other businesses and looking at opportunity? And what do you think it is? Because you're typically not, if you already own a business and you're acquiring or buying, you're going to be hiring. Because again, if you already own a successful business, you likely do not have the time to run 2 businesses. In fact, I would argue that you don't. You absolutely don't.
You don't have the time to drive both businesses.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
And we can talk about that more, but I mean, that is exactly why. So my Thursdays now, if you are one of my business partners, you have a 30-minute slot with me every Thursday. It is a non-negotiable. We're going to meet. We're going to look at the P&L. We're going to look at staffing. We're going to look at sales. We're going to look at all the appropriate metrics. I'm not going to go in there and tell them how to do their job, but I want them to know that I'm driving this thing. I put money in this. I put my influence in it. I put my name on it. I expect profit. Mm-hmm.
Well, and so, yes, love that. So you want, the other thing, so what can go wrong, to answer your question, is
What's the number one thing?
Yeah, a lot. You stepping into that business and being the person that does it.
Oh, that's a non-negotiable. It's not going to happen. I tell people all the time. You said time, influence, and money. I'm the influence and money guy.
Yeah.
I am a full-time realtor. I am a full-time, real estate sales firm owner. That's my full-time job. Everything else is an investment. I'm giving you my time and my influence.
Yeah. Capital. You're giving time and or influence and capital. You're giving some time.
Sorry, not giving time. I'm giving you 30 minutes a week.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you influence and money.
Yeah. So I think number one, it is like, be careful, because you go, oh, I'm going to open that. I can do that too, and I can do that too. And then you become the bottleneck in all your businesses.
Yeah.
The other piece I think is, and we're going to talk about this in number 3, is, do we have the right jockey? So I think sometimes it's like, does this require insurance? Does this require, what do I need to know about this business? And of course, if you have the right jockey, that's going to be their job to line all that out. And yet, again, what am I missing? What if the internet goes down? Is this going to impact that? What if this?
Then I'm
what
not
if
going to
that?
be able to drive anywhere because I drive a Tesla.
Yeah. And so that's the big thing is what are we missing? Am I thinking about the right amount of time? But just go through, and if that's a business that you're interested in or an opportunity, do some research, Google it, find out what other people have said about it, not from a place of, just because somebody else said it doesn't work, you're not going to go, oh, it doesn't work. But what can I learn from that?
Yeah.
Okay, so now number 3, do we have the right jockey? Again, and I would almost say that we'd all want to write this down. We will not start a business or next piece without hiring the person to drive it.
It will never
it's
be
not
about
us.
the what.
We already have a job.
It will always be about the who.
So who is our right jockey? And there's a whole, I think we talked about doing a whole podcast around hiring and how to hire. And because it's so often like, we were both lucky enough to come up from, Keller Williams. They have classes on how to hire.
They have a wonderful hiring course. And I will tell you that I don't think our hiring and recruiting has ever been. So I'm not going to use the word better because we've never been super aggressive about recruiting. It's really our performance is what recruits, I suppose, is our largest attractor. But I've never had more consistently good hires when we did hire. A lot of people would get into the process and go, oh, they're really serious about this. I don't know if this is in alignment with me. And then some people would go, they're really serious about this. This is definitely in alignment with me. Yeah. They want me to win. So they want to know everything up front. And you'll find that the people who are willing to invest that money, that hire, slow mentality, the people who are willing to go through that process with you typically seem to be a lot more serious. In fact, is it Skechers that does this? Now, Chuck is the one, her oldest brother. He is the oldest, right?
Avery's the oldest.
Old ass. Anyway, one of her, he's older than you.
Oh, they're all older. I only have one younger one.
Her older, Benny is the youngest one, right?
Melvin.
I never get this right. There's 80 of them, guys.
That's right. There's a lot of us.
Yeah. All right. So
our parents didn't have a TV growing up.
But Chuck was teaching something, and he was talking about hiring with me. And I believe it was Skechers, but somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. But they actually, after they bring you through their training course, they will offer you money to leave. And the offer gets pretty good. I think it's like $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. And because they want to know if you want to be here, and this is what a big company knows about hiring people in specialized trades or where they have to like really give you the knowledge to make you an effective employee, is they know that a bad hire will cost them tens upon tens of thousands of dollars, and a great hire will make them tens upon tens of thousands of dollars. And so it is easier for me to write you a check for a few grand to say, hey, Olivia, would you take $2,000 to just get the fuck out right now?
Here. Yeah.
Yeah. And you go, yeah. What does that tell me? They're not serious about this. They needed a job. They didn't want the job. Right. And so now we filtered that out. And so hiring the right who is just so important.
And I love what you shared there, because this is the other thing when you hire somebody. A lot of times people will say things to me like, well, if they make it, then I'll invest in them. Mm-hmm. No, they're not going to make it unless you invest in them.
Yeah, that's not a good faith hire.
Well, that's not a good faith hire, but what it tells me is you didn't do a good enough job hiring when you go through the hiring process. And that doesn't mean I got an application, I asked them if they liked the job, and I gave it to them. We won't get into this today, but there's a whole hiring process. If I hire somebody, my intent would be that I'm so excited about them in that role that I immediately want to invest in them, because I see that I'm going to get my return on my investment. So a lot of times people will be like, especially like maybe their first admin, they're like, well, and I'm like, now granted, there's a time and a place for what we're going to, how much we're going to spend and everything. And yet if you're like, I'm like, that tells you probably brought in the wrong person. Yeah. If you don't want to invest any time in them or any money or any classes. And then we'll talk about a whole nother thing of when you bring somebody in, making sure you have the, that first 100-day plan and what does that look like. And so we'll do a whole nother podcast on those pieces. But so again, do you have your right jockey? Do you have the person? Because you're not going to be it, right? Now, number 4, how many people will this business, our next move, have? Because remember, again, people create complexity and management. So if you're attempting to get away from a large human capital business, well, then don't.
You probably shouldn't go into sales.
Yeah. So that would be. So that would be the question is. So how many people will this business or next move have, and am I okay with that? Number 5. What are we bringing to the table? So we've talked about that: time, influence, or capital. And if you've already got a full-time job or whatever, it's going to, we prefer, you're already owning a business, we prefer it to be influence or capital, right? But depending on, remember we said this is a model, how does it impact you? Because you might say, okay, I don't have money, but I have time. I'm going to use my time, right? Or I'm going to go get influence there, or right? So it depends on which one you have. Do you have time? Do you have influence or capital? Lean on the right ones. But if you're a business owner and you're already working 40, 50, 60 hours a week in that business, the one you already have, guess what? You don't have the bandwidth or the capacity to be the right jockey in the next business. You got to find the right jockey. So for you, you mentioned, we talked a little bit about this already. So time, influence, and capital. And anything else you would add to outside of what you've already talked about?
I mean, I would say that you could add the word skill set in there. And I guess that comes in with time. I had a meeting with one of our companies this week. It was the best partner meeting I had of the week. We were trying to help them with their schedule and working through me and one of the partners. We're in I wouldn't call it disagreement. Just we had different thoughts. There was no words or anything like that. Just he wanted kind of boots on the ground, and I feel like we're in a place where I have enough boots on the ground and to help and leverage some of these things. And we could hire a part-time VA, take care of 90% of this stuff, put the sales agent back in their 20, and be more effective as a business while still maintaining very, very low cost. Now, we don't have to spend a lot of money in that business because the lead sources are all predicated on THLT and the relationships built therein. And we are literally hand-fed leads in this company. And I was able to sit down and have this huge business. I say huge. There's 4 of us on a whiteboard and whiteboard out how all that takes place at the lowest absolute cost possible while using our current resources, not burning anybody out, offering additional income for some people, and not creating dual roles or anything crazy like that, because stay in your 20. Dual roles typically do not work. I've actually never. Have you ever witnessed a dual role work? I never have. I've never seen it. Stay away from dual roles. And
tell them a little bit what you mean by dual roles.
Where you're asking one person to do 2 things, such as, hey, this job's going to be somewhat clerical and then somewhat sales. Well, that is asking
2 different behavioral styles.
A left-handed person to throw a fastball with their right hand. It doesn't really work. It may happen, but I'm left-handed and I can throw pretty hard, right? But look, this arm. That's a sissy arm. Yeah. Well, it does nothing.
Well, I'm ambidextrous in certain things. So, I can write left-handed. It's not as fast as I can write right-handed, though.
Yeah.
I play pool with left hand, which I'm terrible at pool, so it doesn't really matter. Right. But absolutely, 100%. What is the...
Yeah, or I really have not had a lot of luck either with people, and when I say dual role sometimes is doing the same job, but for 2 companies. I've also struggled with that. I think you're more likely to have success with that than you are with calling somebody and going, hey, sometimes we might need you to be an admin and sometimes we might need you to be only a phone salesperson. Yeah. Those people typically, it'd be a freak of nature.
That's right.
For that person to exist in the same body.
And it's not to say that somebody can't do it maybe short time, because I think, especially if you've ever started a business, you do it both for a while.
Winners can persevere.
Yes. And yet, if you talk long term, it's not going to work, and it usually only works in your business. Or if you have somebody in your business, let's say that you have somebody that's in your business and they are we'll take Amanda. So Amanda is an amazing salesperson. She is, and it's customer service, heart, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we're talking about Amanda Mesa. Now, interesting enough, I still say that wrong.
It's not Mesa. It's Mesa.
Mesa.
It's like she's a mess.
Mesa.
Which is absolutely true.
Sorry, Amanda. So and her background prior to this was paralegal. So could she come into your office and do all the paperwork and sales? Yes. Would you be stifling your business because
you'd be an idiot to put her behind a desk? She sells 80 houses a year.
That's right. Now she could. So that's the difference of she can do both and do both well.
Yeah. And if I gave her the option, she'd pick that.
Yeah. And so that's where the ticket look. That's some of the things you're looking at. So
can I give you a real life example in my world of a dual role person? So Jennifer Graves is someone we hired. You actually helped me move her in our consultation, but we hired her in our call center as an ISA, and so that's inbound sales, so answering inbound leads where people are reaching out to us with inquiries. And so she's trained on the scripts, she's trained on the golden handoff, she's trained on our marketing partners and how we get them connected, and she was not succeeding in the role. But she was working her tail off, and she was a team player. She showed up every day. She had a great attitude. Everyone loved her. I love her. But she wasn't winning.
Well, not yet, at least, right? Because she hadn't been in that role for very long. So you still had some...
It was like 6, 7, 8 months. Okay. And at 6 months, I'm starting... That's the point where I'm going, we're either productive or we're not. No matter how much I like you, you're not in the right place.
Right.
And so I consulted with you. We had this conversation, and Olivia was like, "Hey, Harrison, you're actually missing a listing coordinator. Like that's really where you're missing, where you're losing all your time." And so I went and talked to Jennifer, and I said, "Hey, I have this role." And
she fit the role. Like it wasn't
she's nurturing, she's caring, and she loves talking, but she's not real. She doesn't lean into sales.
Yeah. But she's great with people. She's great
everyone
with
loves her. Yeah. No, she gets price reductions from our sellers when she calls to do care calls and check on them and go over the weekly feedback. Like these people would be upset at me if I asked for a price reduction, and then she calls and she's like, "Hey, this is Jennifer," and they're like, "Oh yeah, just drop the price 10 G's, it's good."
She's created rapport. They understand that she's sharing this with them because it matters and it's in their best influence. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And so when we moved her over, of course, we changed her pay scale because it's not strictly sales anymore, and I said, "Hey, you're already trained. So I'm going to tell you this, if you want to make more money, because this isn't really, listing coordination for us is probably, I'd say it's a 30-hour-a-week job. So she's got some time, right? I was like, hey, leads are still available for you. If you want to do some of our online inquiries and some of our hot leads, I'm absolutely good with you doing that because I know you're faithful. I know you'll follow up. You won't waste my money. And you know,
it's like an extra.
I just trust you. And you can she could do that part-time and make another $20,000, $30,000 a year if that's what she wanted to do. And she did it for a little bit, but when you give people the option, because those are two different roles. Like one is an ministerial role, and then the other one is a sales role. And she's leaning in to the ministerial acts, right? Like that's what she's leaning on. What does that tell you? That's just where she gets energy. That's what she likes more.
Yeah.
And so that's the real life example that I can tell you is she's so much more effective on this side than she is this. And she's leaning to her strength, which we all would. If you were an amazing basketball player and all your friends were playing football and you looked over at the basketball court and 2 or 3 guys are passing the ball around, you'd be like, hey guys, I think I'm about to take it over here.
Yes.
Right?
Well, and to top that or to continue with that thought process, this is where I'll see a lot of business owners, especially small business owners, that say you own a Salesforce, and they'll say something to the effect of, my admin's going to do this, and then they'll also do this, and I'm like, not about their capability, not about they can't step in and do that if needed or whatever. Yeah. But if you're depending on that long term, or you're depending on that's the only place they can get bonuses, and then you're going to get mad at them because they're not doing the sales part.
Yeah.
They want to lean in and get really good and take your organization to the next level through this. And that's the other thing is sometimes I think salespeople, especially when you start a business, be really careful that you don't fall into the trap of, well, I'm really important in sales because I bring in a lot of money. Guess what? Your business will not sustain unless your back house is a freaking awesome.
Hug your back of the house.
Those people matter. Yeah. That's your first line. Those are the people that are going to hold your culture. Those are the people that are going to make you successful.
They're the enforcers of your standards.
They are not less than. You cannot. I would rather let somebody go that's a good salesperson and terrible at, with culture or not doing the right thing, than not have a great staff. Make sure you have a great staff.
100%. We have absolutely let go of very good, very profitable salespeople in defense of company culture, standards, and how they treated people. And I can tell you this, it's just another real life example in my world of, talented salespeople can come and go. God made more of them. You just got to go attract those people to yourself. We had gotten some people left. We got rid of some. And I can tell you that when they left the room, they brought some sales with them. They brought some of my database with them. It is what it is. But at the end of the day, the people that we brought in were better fits. And now the room is lighter. It's airier. Our clients are happier. Our admin are happier. And we made more money.
That's right.
Sales walked out the door, and we made more money because the shit walked out.
That's right. And that's one of the reasons why it's your standards, your operation practices, things like that. Now, so now, number 6. So how, quote unquote, loud will this be? So how much noise is this business going to create? So you've already mentioned, you only want businesses that are the noise that they're going to take because you have the right jockey in place is 30 minutes a week, X amount of time per quarter, X amount, right?
I'll take a phone call, but if you make me the doer, I'm going to question why I gave you a piece of the business.
And so that's the, so that's the big thing that you want to think about is, again, depending on, like, let's say you're in a role right now where, whether let's say you're an engineer or you're doing something and you're pretty much by yourself. And the thing that the opportunity you're thinking about bringing in addition to this one, it's going to require more people and you may be okay with that. And if that's the case, then hey, run with it. But you do want to ask yourself that question. Is this something that's going to match? And then number 8. And I think this is going to number 7. Is there anything? So we
skipped the whole number.
Yeah. Number 7. Is there anything proprietary or special in this business? Like, if I open this, so that's where I'd like to go back to. So you started with THLT, and then you went here and here and here. Tell us how those businesses that you went after at the beginning correlated with your main.
Yeah, so
you already had business that you could send to them.
Yeah, so we own real estate is a home services business, right? And people who own a home, they need their home worked on, they need insurance, they need professionals to talk to, and we're like, okay, so what is the easiest way to open up a business where I don't have to continue paying for leads? Like, I'm pretty vocal about how much money we spend on marketing and ads and leads and things like that inside THLT. That number is north of $30,000 a month today. And I'm like, okay, how can I open up a company where I don't have to buy any more leads? Like, I can open up, Google my business. I can open up a social media.
Like, we already have.
I have 37,000 contacts in my database right now.
And and I actually asked that question correctly. So this is number, if you happen to write this down, so this is number 8, and then we'll come back to 7. So 8 is, do I already have customers for this product service from my existing company? And so did I misunderstand your question then? No, you answered the right question. I'd kind of combined it. So
okay, cool.
So you had a bunch of people in your database that buy houses.
Yeah.
And those people need home services.
Yeah.
Other home services like insurance, like roofing. And so guess what? Now you already have people that trust you, know you, like you, that you can tell them about those services.
If you did a good job, the second close becomes very easy. And if you did a good job on the first 2, then the third close is cake. And everything past that, as long as you have a brand and a name and integrity that they can trust, it's just easy. Like, hey guys, here are the services we offer. If you've enjoyed the other services that we offer, we'd love to continue serving you and your family. And then it also helps us stay very connected. When I go for a listing appointment on somebody's house where we replace the roof and we have it insured and I know all this data about them, I don't have to ask a lot of questions. I know about the integrity of the home and where it should be price-wise and I've stayed in relationships, so I know what they've done to the house and all those things. And it just becomes, it's just this ecosystem in which we want to keep people inside of it. And for healthy reasons, right? Like for us, yes, there's the benefit of profit, but also there is the awesomeness of relationship, and that relationship makes the business partnership easier.
Yeah, so 100%. And I'll use this. So like, so do you already have customers for that product service? And you say, yes, I've got people that I can talk to about roofing. I've got people I can talk to about insurance. So it's a natural progression, right? Now, you always keep going back to, you have to answer all of the questions, because I will see this with, say, realtors. A lot of realtors, and again, this is going to depend market by market and things to that effect. So, but like, let's say in this market, if a realtor's like, you know what I love is interior designing. So I'm going to do realtor and I'm going to do interior design.
Wrong.
Well, depending, if you said, you know what, I'm going to do interior designing, well, it could be a couple things. If you're doing, you can't be the one that also does the interior designing, right? Because then you don't have the right jockey unless you're replacing yourself in this business.
And your dollar per hour is so vastly different that you will cost money from your real estate business.
Correct. And so then you have to ask yourself, so just, I like it. Now, it might be an amazing asset in your listing business. It may not be a business that you want to do outside of that, because how much money can this make? Can I have somebody else do it? Like, all of those things come into play. So that's where you have to ask yourself, like, is there enough money in this other thing and in this area that would be, that I would want to go for? Now, sometimes it's also okay to go, there's not, I just enjoy doing it, so I want okay, fine, treat it like a volunteer thing, and any money's extra. That's fine.
Yeah, that's a hobby.
That's a hobby.
Don't call it a business.
Well, or call it a business. Just know that business is not it's not going to make the
print money.
And so you have, because that'll help you go, I can only say yes to one project a year, not a bunch, because otherwise it's going to take money from this, and this is what pays my bills and takes care of my kids and things like that. Okay, so now let me go back to number 7. Mm-hmm. Is there anything proprietary or special in this business? So let's talk about your roofing business. You said, okay, and again, the answer to this is not always, right?
Yeah, I don't, there's not one thing that we sell that's proprietary to us. I lean more towards sales businesses because I am a sales coach and sales professional. So I can help people level up there very quickly.
Yeah. Well, and when I would say, so this is, and I'm glad you said it that way. So
proprietary, maybe what's proprietary is I have a specialization in sales skills and building businesses. And so maybe that is the proprietary thing about partnering with me. Or not proprietary,
it's the special. The specialness is like your salespeople know how to go out and be a salesperson. You have a system where, okay, this is what we say, this is how we do it, this is how we go the extra mile, things to that effect, right? So that can be, because a lot of times I think about, and I've got family members that are roofers, and what's interesting is some roofers are amazing. Well, most roofers that are amazing roofing are not good at sales, and vice versa,
and
right?
People who get on the roof and install typically do not do sales. It's right. It's the same thing as the Jennifer Graves story I told you, right? Some people are very built towards, my little brother, for instance, he has the same. So when we take personality tests, we're this close. We're this far apart. But Jake leans more towards he's more creative than I am. He is a creative. You'll notice this in our social medias. Jake's out doing all these cool videos. By the way, he's not hiring an editor for any of that shit. He's doing it all himself. Mm-hmm. He loves it. He gets off on it. It's awesome to him. Don't ask me to do it. I'm going to look at you and go, I mean, who are we hiring? Yeah, right? I lean more into speaking for a living. Jake leans in more to creating and doing for a living. And so if he is... he honestly, his leads come from marketing, not from, he doesn't door knock. Yeah. He does not do the typical roofer salespeople
and things. He did at the beginning, and then he found, didn't. Okay, anyways.
That was a whole fight.
But actually that's a great, and it's a whole nother conversation around this, because so often, I remember, I'll use me, for example, when I first got into sales, it took a while for my older brother talked me into it, and I was like, I'm not a salesperson. And so I got into sales, and
yet you're a sales professional.
That's right. And because, so the way that I looked at it is, so him and Michelle at the time, Michelle's amazing, but they would have open houses, and they would become the people's friends, and I don't have the energy, I don't have the bandwidth to do that, energy wise. If I had a Sunday open house and I left it all out, Monday I'm not getting out of bed.
Yeah.
So for me, where I figured out is, oh wait, I'm a consultant. I'm going to call you in. I'm going to get you the office. I'm going to explain everything and do such an amazing job with that you are going to tell people about me. You're going to want to work with me. You're going to trust me. And then I might have somebody else show you the actual houses, because you're going to decide whether. So then I was like, oh my gosh. So it doesn't have to be any one way. So you mentioned, you had a lot of door to door, phones, talking, and he did it marketing. Now, keep in mind, if you're not in the right spot, if you try marketing first, you are going to, you have to have a bigger budget and a lot more time for marketing to hit than the other. So be careful.
What does Gary Keller say about opening a business? How should you lead?
Prospecting.
How should you lead? Lead with
revenue.
Lead with revenue. Quit. So I had to, this was one of my big issues in one of my partner meetings this week. And it's, hey, Harrison, we need, and they listed off another $10,000 to $15,000. We're already $20,000 over budget. And I walk into their offices, and I'm like, these guys have nicer offices than I have, right? It's the second company I've opened where the people that I provided the money for have nicer offices than me.
They're spending a lot of money on the office. You're like, that's the best use of our money, because nobody, we are the only ones that see the office. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I walk, we're over budget. They're asking me for additional dollars, and I was like, no. The answer is absolutely not. We're already over budget. You guys have nice ass offices. You're going to create revenue, and then I'll spend the money.
Yeah, you got to figure it out.
Go sell. And so you lead with revenue in your new companies, guys. personal example for me. I'm full of examples today. All right. I get into real estate. I'm coming out of the bars. I have about 100 G's in my bank account that I had saved from bartending and selling my bar. And the first thing I went and did, I didn't hire a coach. I didn't read a real estate book. I tried. I think I opened the MREA book for 10 whole seconds, right? And I went and bought a bunch of Zillow leads, like $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month. Ask me how many of those leads I closed. Goose egg. I tried to lead with spending money to buy my way into the business without the appropriate skills. Had I hired a coach for $1,000 a month, $1,000 a month,
they would have helped you learn how to do that, and then you would have actually made your money.
I would have wasted. I mean, I would have gotten back an entire year of my life. I probably wouldn't have had to go work at Nukes, which honestly I'm very thankful I did. Thank you, Nukes. You guys are freaking awesome. Like, they blessed me so much. But at the same time, like, I did things the hard way. Mm-hmm. Lead your new startup with revenue. You don't work from a fancy new office and go buy a building. You don't go spend a bunch of money on marketing. You need a GMB. You need a social media page. You need Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok. You can do the content from your phone. Yeah, you can post from your phone. You do not need a $5,000 computer. You do not need the latest and greatest drone. You do not need that shit. What you need to do is go get your ass up, get a routine, put it in your schedule, be consistent, and work your ass off. And then when you make the money, now you can reinvest into your business, which is what I did. I lived off of $40,000 to $60,000 per year for 5 years before I ever did anything fun. Now, year 5, it was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
I went and paid cash for a luxury SUV. I went and put my family in a very nice house. But I built such a big trampoline that I had earned the right to do that.
That's right. And so I love that you share that, because it's such an important piece. So like, and this is, you remember I talked about turning a hobby? So I've got a hobby. And I'm working on how do I turn it into my main thing, right? Dogs. Yeah. I have tons of them. I want tons of them. Like, I'm not, it's my thing.
She's like the lady with too many children. There was an old woman who lived in a shoe. She had so many children, she didn't know what to do. I don't know if that's how it went, but it's close.
Yeah. We're the crazy cat lady. I'm the crazy dog lady. So
at least they're doodles and poodles.
That's right. So we have. So with that said, I also I want to get into where I have a grooming. A boarding facility and things like that.
It's gonna be awesome. It's a great location.
And dog treats and the whole bit. So right now I'm doing that for fun, right?
Yeah.
So
she's practicing with Bruno.
That's right.
And my dog doesn't want to come home to me, which is super sad.
And and I'm making dog treats and I'm finding things out and all of this. So like, I will go on and I'll be like, oh, I need that KitchenAid mixer that's, $500. And I'm like, dude, no, you don't. You have a hand mixer. It works. Yeah. You're not actually, you know what I mean? So
we'll get the luxuries later when it starts developing revenue.
So right now, like there's certain things that I want. So like I groomed 2 dogs on Thursday. Mm-hmm. And because again, just learning, and it's again, it's my hobby, right? Yeah. And so that money, I went and bought the next thing that I wanted to buy for the right. So I'm spending hobby money. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so, so that's where I say, like, just be intentional. Know what it is that you're doing versus just like, I can't act like that's my job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's fun. That's extra time or whatever. And it keeps me engaged, and it keeps me like, okay, I need to make this work so that I can make that work. So that's the big thing about when, we say like, spending money, revenue. Now, okay. Then the last couple, and then we're going to wrap up. So, number 9, will it require travel? You can answer that. And then, am I okay with that or not? Number 10, how passionate am I about it on a scale of 1 to 5, where 4 isn't an option?
So important.
So important. So if you were to do this, and like, let's say me for a, dog grooming business, right? Or, I'm sorry, not a boarding facility, dog business, all that. I'm passionate about it at a level of 5. If I said 3, or if I said 4.
What about 4.5? It rounds up to 5.
Yeah, you really, if it's anything below a 5, you want to rethink it. Now this is the thing. It might not be that you need to walk away. It might be, I need to rethink how that's set up. I need to rethink this, and eventually, or the answer may eventually be walk away.
Yeah. So this really leans into Dave Ramsey's rule of investing. Now, for all you Dave Ramsey haters out there, get bent. He's awesome.
He's a tool. He's a tool. I like Dave.
He's a safe bet.
He's giving you
go watch
tools.
our episode with Scooter Howell.
Yeah. He's giving you tools you can use to hear, and then you can get creative. You can decide which ones you want to use, but you got to start with knowing what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I would recommend follow it until you have achieved stability, and then you can start to augment your behaviors. Like I use credit cards. I probably put $2 million a year on credit cards. But you know what my credit card bill is every month on the 1st? Like today's the 1st, right? I think today's the 1st. I could be wrong.
Sure.
Yeah. No,
close enough.
No,
by the time this airs.
Yeah, today's the 1st.
Okay.
Today's February the 1st. So you know what I'm doing when we get off this podcast? I'm about to go through all of the company's credit cards because we put everything we can on credit cards, and then all the partners get to split points and pay for vacations and stuff. And I do a financial report, make sure that everything on there is supposed to be on there, tell everybody what they owe if it's not, and then we pay those credit cards off. I have not, in my entire life, paid 1 penny of credit card interest that I can remember. If I have, it was completely on accident. But I have great financial behavior. What Dave says, get rid of the credit cards because most people don't have great financial behavior, and that's why they're buried in debt. That's why they're listening to Financial Peace University. Let me get back on point here.
Yeah.
Dave's rules for investing. Something you are super interested in, because if you're interested in it, you lean into it. It gives you energy. You want to learn about it. You're curious.
Yep.
Right? And something that you are knowledgeble about, something you understand. Yeah. Right?
And the interesting thing too, it may not be, so for instance, okay, we'll take real estate. For me, where I really honed in is businesses. Mm-hmm. How do businesses think? How do they work? Who needs to be in the businesses? That's what got me, right? Mm-hmm. And so that parlayed into something else. But where it really parlayed into something else was I was in real estate. I said, okay, I wanted to go do this thing, which at the time it was becoming a bold coach, a maps coach, because of the way they communicated. And I said, so what do I got to do that? And that was my driving force. So, it may be that you aren't, like me, if somebody were like, oh my God, a lot of people get into real estate because they love looking at houses. They're cool, but I don't care.
Right.
But it's the business aspect. So, but look to see, but if it is something that you hate, okay, I'm never gonna, this is an extreme example, but, fighting dogs. I ain't ever gonna like that. Nothing about it. So guess what?
So extreme.
I know that's very extreme, right? I'm gonna call the cops on you. I'm gonna be the Karen.
We went from Doodles and Poodles to Michael Vick in 30 seconds.
But what I'm just saying is if you have there's nothing about that you like, don't do it.
Yeah.
You're not. You can't. And so again, I know that's an extreme example, but you're not going to. You're not. You're just not going to want to do it. Yeah. So if you find yourself going I'm absolutely not going to want to do that ever, then you got to look, is there different aspects of that I do like that I can utilize to make that, or I've got to find something else?
Yeah. When I talk to wealthy people or experienced business owners, I find a lot of their businesses are very relative to one another. It's SaaS model, which would be creating subscription services or programs and then selling them, licensing them, subscribing, selling their subscriptions. We find that people that do gyms typically will do fitness facilities and things like complexes rather than just a gym. Like the owner of All the Anytimes. Her and Joey Trappy just went and bought the Mac together, and now they're completely revamping the Mac. I think it's going to be a really great day. Joey is a food and entertainment specialist. Amy is a gym, health, and fitness specialist. And all those things are very relative to them.
That's right.
And so they put a bunch of money together, and now they're going to make the facility was already one of the better in Northeast Louisiana. It's probably going to be the best in the next year because they are dumping. From outside looking in, I mean, they've got dozers out there. They're revamping the swimming pool. They're dumping some dollars in that thing.
And they know what they're doing. So that's funny. Yeah. And I did. So this is the story about it. So I love what you said. Be relative, right? So there is. I'm going to pick on some folks right here, and they know that I'm saying this. But there were some gentlemen that were great at real estate and sales. They went to find. They were like, what other business? Because they wanted to, go explore. And they're like, what other business can we get? Somehow or another, they got onto Anytime Fitnesses. And neither one of these guys has ever been into a gym. or if they've been, now I'm probably being extreme. They're not gym people.
Mm-hmm.
If they've gone, it's like the rest of us where you sign up and then you go 3 times and you don't ever go back. But they're not gym people, except maybe one of them played sports in high school, right? Like they're not gym people.
Yeah.
So guess what? Their sales skills and stuff did not. And then they also went state over to do it.
So I have no influence. I do not have the skill set. And so really what they should have done. So what they should have done is taken the money that they had, right? Because we've discovered in this podcast, right? Like there's some lessons to be learned here. Money, influence, or time. Their time is useless because they don't have the right skill set. They don't have any influence because they got outside of their influence area, right? It's like taking Harrison Lilly, who is influential in Northeast Louisiana, and going to New Orleans where no one knows or gives a fuck about who Harrison Lilly is, and dropping my name there. Nothing is going to happen. It's not relevant. I should have taken my money and hired the right who.
Well, that or if you did that and decided to sell shoes.
I can sell shoes. I can sell anything.
Give me something.
Let's stay out of sales.
So forget selling shoes. Well, they're selling memberships.
I'll sell pens.
Well, now that was their idea. We're selling memberships. We're salespeople, but it's a different type of thing altogether. So.
Well, what were they? Oh, they were selling real estate prior.
Yeah.
Or were they residential or commercial?
Residential.
Huh? Really? I feel like that skill should translate.
Not if you don't know how to speak to gym people. Not if you know that would.
I mean, you need to be in the culture of that. Which I grew up in that culture. I love that. In fact, I'll tell you what, I love gym culture.
But that's the difference.
Yeah.
You grew up. You know, like when people go to the gym, you used to bodybuild, you used to box.
Right.
But these people had not.
Yeah.
Now, so you
took some skinny fat people with money in there and just let them roll.
So that's the ticket is make sure it's something. And
I think you also need to exemplify the product that you sell.
Well, not only that, but they weren't interested in. They only saw it as a business. Now, granted, that's okay. Yeah. And if they had the who or they invested money, that would have been fine. But they were the owners. Does that make sense?
I know it does. But I
make sure that
I want to hear your rebuttal to what I said. I think that people need to exemplify the thing that they sell. If you put a 400-pound person to go sell gym memberships, it's just not. I don't think it's going to go well. Like if you walked in here,
unless they had weighed 1,000 pounds and they lost weight.
Then I'd be like, high five, bro. That's something I can get behind, right?
So, 100%.
But you got to have a story for that.
That's right. Well, and not only that, but you have to. You have to care about it. Now that's different than if you wanted to just be an investor. Investing, and what I mean by that is, let's say that there were. Ross Dress for Less. Whenever they went online, the guy that bought them, Lifestyle Investor is the name of the book. They don't do dresses. They understood the online space. And of course they hired their who or whatever, but investing in a business or it's almost like buying stocks. I don't have to care about, let's say I don't even like a Coke product, but I could buy Coke. Invest in Coke? Well, I didn't invest in Coke, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So there's a difference, but if you're gonna own the business and you've got to be, you can't, especially without having the right who, it's not gonna work. So, all right, we're right here at time. I know we probably could keep going on, and yet
we have 2 to 4 minutes.
So, let's wrap up. I did want to say, so I wrote down some things that I think we're going to talk about in future podcasts. How to hire. Like where to find talent, how to find talent for you, how to, all those pieces. Closing out the month. So you mentioned going through financials. So I actually own, we'll use a company that I work with. So one of the things that we're going to do is somewhere between the first 3 days of every month, we pull their QuickBooks, we pull their how much money they still have going out. We look at their leads they came in. Basically, there's a whole lot of things to close out their month, and we meet and we go through all of those processes and go, hey, based on that, what do we need to edit, change, adjust, etc. How much money do we have in our net? All that. So I'd love to do a podcast where you're like, okay, how do we close out a month and then look at the budget for this upcoming month?
Yeah, who would be a good guest for that? Daniel Gilley. He does good. He does well there. It would have been really cool if we could have talked about recruiting while Mark was here. That'd have been cool.
Yeah.
Which we can always get him back.
Right.
I just don't know when he's gonna be back in town. I am getting. Tomorrow I'm starting my pilot's license.
Ooh.
So, I don't know, somewhere within the next, year, I'll probably have a private pilot's license. In the next 10 years, I'll have a plane. I don't know when that's going to happen. And I don't know if I really want to be in the air right now, if I'm being honest. Oh, man. The reason I mentioned the plane thing is because, we can get to Florida in like an hour and a half. Mm-hmm. That's actually my motivation for that, is that I can get to Florida and back in a whole day, in a day or two.
Oh yeah, and this is so not what we're talking about, but that was one of the coolest things. Kathy Patrick, she invited us to go to. We were going to a class, and she had all of us get on a plane one time, and we flew down, and it was so awesome walking into the Monroe Airport, but the private side. So there's no going through security. We walked on, we got on, they flew us, we walked off. I'm like, oh, this is freaking awesome. And I think it was like 45 minutes to get from here to New Orleans, which is a 5.5, 6 hour drive, depending on where you're going.
Yeah, about 5. Yeah.
And then, I'm just like,
that's neat.
This is cool. And then Mom, she uses pilots with patience sometimes.
When you're loaded, time is your most valuable thing. Like you don't have that to give anymore. And so that becomes important. And that's, I'm not there yet, but I'm preparing. I speak to myself on who I'm going to be in the future. Yeah. And I'm preparing for my next season now.
And given this is the interesting thing. The pilot lessons, that is for now, that's for fun, right?
It's really more for business.
Well, let me back up. It's for fun. And the reason I say it's for fun
Unless they're going to let me land a water plane on Canyon Lake. Then it'll be for fun.
But even learning that right now, it's for fun. Now, I'm not saying this is going to but because when I mean that is you can't put that more important than your actual business right now.
Oh yeah, it is.
It's a hobby until it becomes.
It's me needing to be more mobile so that I can prepare for my future.
But even then, interesting enough, it doesn't cost that much to have a pilot. And a lot of people that have planes, they have a pilot that they share, and the pilot, that's his passion, right? And then he comes and flies for you here and flies for you there and that type of thing.
Which is probably what I will do, but that's in the next season, right?
Correct.
That's in the one after this next one.
That's right. And so, and I only bring that up because so often we can get so far. Oh my God, I'm going to be pilot this, and then you get passionate about it, and then you spend all of your time and hours and energy on that, and then it impacts your business. So that's where you have to just identify and this is not, and I'm a big believer in go have fun. Go have lots of fun. Yeah. I happen to have fun by learning new stuff. I'm a dork, right? You're a dork, you're a nerd. So learning new things, people would be like, well, that's fun for you. And I'm like, yeah, I know.
I spent the first hour and a half of my day listening to Think and Grow Rich. I mean,
right now, it's ridiculous. Anyways, I won't go into any further than that. The stuff that I get excited about that is dorky, or it's just they're like, well, you didn't. I'm like, I just learned stuff today. One of my brothers texted in our group text. He said something about what's your favorite time of year and your favorite hobby? And I was like, learning stuff is my favorite hobby. I know lots of how to do lots of random stuff. I've taken guitar lessons. Can't play guitar, but I hurt my. Anyways,
but you were curious, right?
But I was curious. Yeah. I now know how to make homemade doggy treats. Just random stuff. But I like to learn new things. Okay, so as we wrap up, and we would also love to hear from you. What are some of the things that you would like us to talk about or address? We would be happy to do so.
Yeah, I'm willing to talk about anything: business, leadership, money, financials, investment. I like all those topics, so very open to that. Also, I was talking about Joey Trappy. I bet I'm going to try to get him on whiskey business. I think that'll be a great person to talk to. He owns restaurants and he lives that life. And and he also does a lot of real estate investments. He has a really cool model for going to find places that don't have appropriate housing for big workforces coming in. And so doing temporary housing and setting up trailers and RVs and mobile homes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he does really well off that from what I understand. I don't know all the numbers, but I wonder if he'd be willing to share some of them. So it'd be really cool.
All right.
Yeah, he's a local phenom.
All right. So that's the other thing. Any other local phenoms that maybe we haven't mentioned, we don't know, let us know. Yeah. Or if that's you, let us know. We'd love to have you on.
Yeah. All right, guys, that was the end of the episode. Thank you so much. If you enjoyed it, if you like this new format, we're shorter. We're trying to pack more information, be way more focused for you guys. So if you like it, subscribe.
Doesn't cost you a thing. Hit like. Share it with somebody.
Look. Subscribe and silence your notifications. I don't give a shit, okay? But no, we appreciate you guys. Y'all have a wonderful week. We'll kill it in February. See you soon. Let's fucking go.